Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the NFL Draft Triple Take presented by UPMC. Mike Prisuta from the DVE Morning Show, Matt Williamson of SNR, and Dale Lolley of SNR. We are here to catch you up position by position on the NFL Draft. You can catch all three of us on the Steelers Radio Network pregame show. Matt and Dale are the tag team on the drive on SNR, but we're talking about prospects today, guys who will be playing presumably in some of the games that we set the table for with our pregame show work. And today we're here to talk about running backs. Dale, I know there's been great debate in recent seasons as to whether or not running backs should be drafted highly and invested in first-round picks and, capital of that nature. Some teams get by without them, but, boy, when you have one and he's really good, they're really nice to have, aren't they?
They really are. And if you look at it over the last 5 drafts, there's only been 9 running backs taken in the first round. That's just – that to me, though, talks more about the position and kind of how it's been – I think it says more about college football than it does the actual position itself, because a lot of these guys are running in, spread offenses and things of that nature that free it up so you can just put an athlete at the running back position, and he could be a 190-pound athlete because the holes are so big because of the running quarterbacks. It doesn't really matter. But when you're looking at the guys for the NFL, you want them to have a little bit more size. And so, they better have those special traits. And, that's where this comes into play. They also have a short shelf life. I mean, it just, you just see it time and again where, if you spend a pick on these guys, are they going to be playing 10 years in the league as opposed to that defensive tackle that you take in the first round? And, well, he's probably going to have a 10-year career, that offensive tackle or that guard, whatever it may be. They just have a longer shelf life because they don't take the beating these guys do.
Yeah, to Dale's point about size, 7 of the top 10 rushers this past season, 220 pounds or heavier. And that doesn't mean they're big, slow, rumbling, bumbling, plodding type of guys. These guys are big and athletic now, and they can move, but certainly helps to have that bulk when you take the pounding that Dale referenced. Matt, let's have you lead it off. Your number 5 running back, James Cook from national champion Georgia.
Yeah, and quick overview. I'm not super impressed with this class, to be honest with you. And I'm going to stress, their abilities in the passing game, which I have a feeling is going to come up a little later when we discuss a certain guy. And Cook is, I think they're, again, I'm getting ahead of myself a little, but I think this Deebo Samuel usage of receiver running backs is something teams are going to look for. And Cook is such a good receiver from the slot out wide. He's Dalvin's brother, by the way. And he's small and he can't handle a big workload, but he could do the Deebo Samuel / Naheem Hines type of thing. And he's just a really dynamic guy that's a great athlete and is a weapon. I mean, he's not the 220-pound guy that's going to lead the league in rushing, but he's a weapon.
Dale, you and I have Brian Robinson Jr. of Alabama checking in at number 5. And again, for people who are maybe just catching one of these episodes for the first time, this is our first look at it. We're going to be doing these triple takes leading up to the draft. So these rankings are subject to change. Our mock draft first round is subject to change, and you're probably going to see some changes. But Dale, I kept it simple. All the running backs at Alabama graduate to the NFL and do well. So I'll take the 226-pound kid at number 5 that had a 1,300-yard season and played in the SEC for Roll Tide, and I'll be okay with that.
Yeah, and he really impressed at the Senior Bowl as well, Mike, with his pass protection. He's really willing in that. Caught the ball well. Did all the little things, and I think you could be looking at a guy here. Maybe he could be your number 1. He did that last year. Obviously, he was the backup to Najee Harris and a lot of the other bevy of backs that they put out in recent years. And this year he got the opportunity to be the number 1 guy, and he produced. I mean, that's the long and short of it. And, to get that kind of production at that school, playing the schedule that they play, that he can do it. And, there's a little bit of Najee there too, in terms of the size, in terms of the production. Yeah, it spiked his senior year when he finally got a chance to be the guy. I like him a lot.
Matt, number 4 on your list, Dameon Pierce from Florida.
Yeah, I didn't know much about him before the Senior Bowl, and I thought he was very impressive there, although I don't put too much stock in running back performances in practice of the Senior Bowl because you're not getting tackled and things like that. But I thought he really did a nice job catching the ball and in pass protection there, which is something he wasn't asked to do much at Florida. Sparingly used there. I mean, so do they have some freshman that we're going to be talking about in a couple of years as a first-round pick? I don't know, but he is a short, compact, Barry Foster type, bowling ball, hard to get on the ground. I think he'll be a much better pro than he was as a college running back.
Yeah, a lot of touchdowns for few touches in his career, to your point about the usage. Dale, you went with one of my favorite running backs in this draft at number 4, Kyron Williams of Notre Dame.
Yeah, a little bit smaller than the other guys on my list here. He's 5'9", 199 pounds. That doesn't seem to keep him out of the end zone. He had 31 touchdowns the last 2 years. He had 2,100 rushing yards, and he also caught 77 passes as well. So he can do those things for you, and he can return some punts too. So there's a lot there to like. Goes back to the Matt's talking about weapons out of the backfield. I think this guy could be a weapon type player. Maybe not an every down running back in the NFL. You never know. Maybe he grows into that, but certainly his performance. Can only go up, I think, depending on how well he runs, how well he tests.
Yeah, I think he's going to run well and test well, and I think he's the home run hitter of this class. I'm not in love with 199 pounds, but boy, does this guy, he can break people's ankles in space. He can get to the edge and turn it up. He can catch the ball. He does a lot of things really, really well. I'm enamored with Kyron Williams. He's number 2 on my list. My number 4 is Isaiah Spiller of Texas A&M. I just think he looks the part. 6'1", 225, runs inside, runs outside. He has good vision. He can take that outside run and cut it back inside. He's effective in the passing game. Looks to me what an NFL running back should look like. Matt, you've got Spiller at number 3. And Dale, your number 3 is 2 spots too low.
I've got Kenneth Walker and I actually have Isaiah Spiller as number 1. And again, I'm with Matt. I don't love any of the guys in this draft class, but I think Spiller's the kind of guy that you're looking for in terms of total package, being able to catch the ball. Didn't have heavy usage at Texas A&M. Did it in a major conference, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. That to me matters as well. 5.5 yards a carry in his career. I got Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State at number 3. And the only reason I have
you better have Jim Brown and Barry Sanders as number 2 and number 1.
The only the questions that I have about Kenneth Walker, and I think Matt has some of the same. They never used him in the passing game ever. Now, he's great when he's running the football. That's fantastic. But I don't know what he is as a receiver. And I also look at the transfer from Wake Forest to Michigan State and wondered, okay, maybe the coaching staff at Wake Forest had no idea what they had there in this guy. But why was he only a part-time player at Wake Forest, and then all of a sudden he becomes a star at Michigan State? Maybe you could fill us in on that.
I can't speak to Wake Forest, but I'm going to give you guys – I'm going to mix my sports here in giving you an analogy to this situation. Oh, why didn't they use him in the passing game? Can he block? Can he catch? The Penguins drafted a guy named Mario Lemieux a long time ago, and somebody asked the general manager, Eddie Johnston, about whether or not Lemieux could play defense, and he said, and I quote, "You don't take a thoroughbred and make him a plow horse. Kenneth Walker III is so good running the football. Why would you ask him to do anything else?" I say that tongue a little bit in cheek. Now, people tuning in, listening in, watching, reading, whatever, they may or may not be aware that I went to Michigan State University. I watched every down this kid played this year, and I saw him put a program that won 2 games the year before on his back and just have a phenomenal year. He makes every kind of run you can imagine. He's tough. He doesn't fumble. And, oh, by the way, that Michigan State offensive line was not the Texas A&M Maroon Goons or the old Washington Hogs. It wasn't that good. Ran through tackles, broke tackles, contact or yards after contact, all that stuff. 5'10", 210. I think he's phenomenal. And again, maybe it's familiarity and just a little bit of appreciation for all the fun that I had watching him on Saturday. So I think this kid's a really, really good running back.
I agree with you in that, but he was 2 for me, Walker. And I think he's the best ball carrier of this group. And frankly, I don't even know that it's that close. I mean, balance, power, all those things, like Nick Chubb to me is one of the best ball carriers in the NFL. But I think Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara are better players because of their well-roundedness. And I just don't see the well-roundedness from Walker. Maybe it's there and it just is untapped. I don't know. His pass protection reps are a little frightening. And one thing I noted about him was if this was the 80s, this guy might be a top 10 pick, but the positions just changed. And, if the next team doesn't plan on having him run a lot of routes and they just want to hand the rock off to him like Chubb or Derrick Henry, he'll excel.
One guy we haven't talked about yet, and he's on all 3 of our lists. I've got him at number 3. Matt, you've got him at number 1. And Dale has him at number 2. We're talking about Breece Hall of Iowa State. Matt, why is he the top running back available this year in your incorrect estimation?
Yeah, and frankly, I don't think most years he wouldn't be. Like if you compare him to last year's guy, I think he's probably the 4th back off the board. You mentioned the line that Spiller ran behind A&M, which was exceptional. The one at Iowa State's pretty darn bad. I just think he's the most complete back. I mean, he has a lot of touches. 590 touches over the past 2 years. So there's a little more, tread off of his tires.
That's one reason I banged him a little bit more than Spiller. Yeah. I think they're close in terms of, I think those top 3 guys are all pretty close actually.
Me too.
But Hall has the most wear and tear on his body by far.
Yeah. Pretty consistent though. Last 2 years, very similar. No drop off. You know what you get with this guy. I think I kind of agree with the way you guys see this class. I don't see Jim Brown or Barry Sanders, but maybe a little bit like quarterback, more than perhaps meets the eye initially. And isn't that always the case in the draft? There's always X number of players that people didn't necessarily see coming that managed to excel.
Well, what people often overlook, Mike, is where these guys land at. You can be a great player or a good player and you land in a spot where it's just not going to work for you. And you see this a lot. Then they go somewhere else and it's, obviously, this guy can play. How did they screw this up in the other spot? Well, the fit wasn't there, so much of it's fit and opportunity. And, if these guys get opportunities, they could certainly be solid players next year.
That is a really good point. Matt, does Dale make these kind of insightful points on the drive every day?
Usually what happens is I say it on the drive and then he says it here.
Oh.
No, we make all kinds of
hey, it's a copycat league. Everybody knows that.
Real quick, I just want to throw one thing out there. Walker to me is a huge question in the passing game. And I give, Spiller and Hall pretty good marks there, but by no means are they Kamara or McCaffrey either. They're like Leonard Fournette type receivers, capable, fine, but not difference makers in the receiving game.
I'll make one more point about Walker since I'm the point guard here and I get the ball last. He started the season against Northwestern scoring 4 touchdowns, the Al Bundy. 4 touchdowns in one game.
Do they count if they're against Northwestern?
Against Michigan. Does it count if they come against Michigan? He scored 5 touchdowns against Michigan.
That forever gets him a spot in your heart.
Oh, maybe right at the top of the list, Dale. That's going to do it for the running backs segment of our pre-draft coverage. We've got a lot more of this stuff to come. So thank you for finding us, however, and wherever you found us, keep doing so. You can get this kind of quality programming, and I say that from the bottom of my heart, quality programming on all of the Steelers' social media platforms. Until next time, for Matt Williamson and Dale Lolley, I'm Mike Prisuta. You've been listening, watching, reading, absorbing the NFL Draft Triple Take presented by UPMC.